Okay, so yesterday was my first Ask the Pharmacist live stream, and the people that were on there decided today that they wanted me to talk about three different things, which are hypertension, obsessive compulsive disorder, and what my favorite recipes are. So, of course, if anybody comes in and has any questions at all for me, I will answer them. That's why I'm here. But I need to have something to talk about just in case nobody has any questions. Otherwise, I'll just be sitting here, not doing anything. So let's talk a little bit about hypertension. What do you do if you have high blood pressure? Well, the first thing is preventative measures. So if you smoke, stop. Make sure you're exercising. Don't eat too many salty foods. And with that, I would say try to stick with the Mediterranean diet and foods that are healthy for you. So, things I always say try to stay away from, not eliminate, but try to decrease your intake of white rice, white pasta, anything really made with white flour, right? White potatoes as well. So that can help you. I mean, brown rice is better than white rice. Whole wheat pasta is better than white pasta. So that I would start with that. Make sure that you're staying within a reasonable weight range for yourself, because if you're overweight, of course, that can also lead to hypertension. So those are some of the basic things that you could do. Now, what kind of meds do we have? We have all kinds of different meds for hypertension. We have diuretics, which pull fluid out of your body. There's multiple different kinds of diuretics. There's thiazide diuretics, there's loop diuretics, there's potassium-sparing diuretics. There's all different kinds of diuretics. And then we have drugs like clonidine. We have beta blockers that can decrease blood pressure. And beta blockers also decrease heart rate as well as blood pressure. So you got to be careful, make sure that your heart's not already beating slow before you take those. But I would say, a lot of people can get by with just changing their daily habits. If you drink a lot of alcohol, you're way more likely to have high blood pressure. It just goes along with it, especially after you've been drinking a lot. You start going through that withdrawal from alcohol period of time, your blood pressure can go up. Okay, so that's just a basic overview of hypertension and what you can do to help yourself mitigate it. And if anybody comes in and has questions about it, I will definitely answer them. Let's talk a little bit about obsessive compulsive disorder. So we talked about this a little bit yesterday. So this is where you are compelled to do something even though you probably don't really need to do it. So a lot of people, cleaning's a big thing. People that clean constantly, even though their house is already clean. Other people may have to have things in a certain order, or it drives them crazy. So the example I used yesterday is you may have a closet with all your black pants are together and all your brown pants are together and all your tan pants are together, and if anything's out of order, it sets you off. My mom used to be one of these people that had to make sure everything was turned off before we left, and the stove, and even if the stove wasn't used, you would sometimes even have to go back in to make sure. So that's a little bit of a compulsive trait. People may wash their hands over and over and over and over again. They may hoard things. That's another thing. A compulsion to save stuff that you don't need is something that can be unhealthy, especially if it's, if you have so much junk in your house that vermin can live in there, right? If it's not clean, then you might be setting up a house for things that you don't want really living with you. And how do we treat obsessive compulsive disorder? Well, we can use drugs, SSRIs. We used to use clomipramine for this, but we don't use that very much anymore. Now it's pretty much Prozac or one of the SSRIs that we use for that. And the doses are generally higher than they are for depression or anxiety, for OCD. And then, of course, there's psychotherapy. So psychotherapy is where you go and you talk to somebody and they walk you through how to change your habits and maybe how to just fix your compulsions a little bit at a time. And if it's a real severe problem, you may actually have to go to a psychiatrist. I mean, there are people that are so compulsive that they can't get anything else done in their lives, right? They're so fixated on whatever it is that they're compulsive about that they can't get anything else done because they will never stop doing whatever it is that they feel the need to do. Okay, so we're 6.5 minutes into this. We still don't have any questions because nobody's in here, but that's okay. That's okay. We're just starting this live stream. Yesterday was day 1, so I'm sure with time people will start coming in, especially when I get a time that is, shall we say, normal, which should be happening very soon. Now, this is spring break, so this next week's not going to be normal, but the week after that, we'll start coming on here Monday through Friday at approximately probably 6 o'clock, either 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock a.m. Pacific time. I haven't decided yet. That's when I used to go live on TikTok, and I will be live streaming on multiple platforms at the same time. So you'll be able to see me on here, you'll be able to see me on TikTok, you'll probably be able to see me on LinkedIn even possibly, and maybe even Twitter. So we're gonna try to stream this show on all different places, and the advantage of that is, number one, we can get a lot more people in here, and getting more people in here will get us more questions. So that's the goal of this whole thing. Now let's talk about recipes. What do I like to cook? What are my favorite recipes to make that are healthy? So I'm gonna say that number one, and the easiest thing probably, is to go to the produce section of the store and find the freshest vegetables I can that are in season. So during the summer, this is super easy, right? Zucchini, yellow squash, broccoli, basically any type of vegetable, beets sometimes even, and then I'll cut them up into little pieces and stir fry them. This stir fry is, I usually make my own sauce with it. I don't like to use things in bottles just because they've got preservatives and chemicals in them, and I don't want the chemicals. That's when I talk about whole foods and non-processed foods, that's what I'm talking about. You know, I may use soy sauce. It does have some chemicals in it, but sometimes it's one of my ingredients. But I play around with different sauces, and I spend quite a bit of time looking on Google and other places for sauces that I can make with stir fry. I usually serve it over brown rice. That's my go-to. So I would say that would be number one. That is my number one thing. It's just a simple stir fry. I may throw some raw cashews in there, peanuts, something like that, maybe some water chestnuts, and different herbs. I may make a sauce out of turmeric and pepper. So I may throw some coconut milk in there, whatever I feel like doing on that day. Another thing I like to use a lot of when I'm doing these stir fries is spicy pastes that you can get, like the green, the yellow curry paste. You can get them. Penang curry is another one. I like those because those are healthy, they're good, they give it a Thai-like flavor, and they're yummy, guys. I mean, that's one thing that I will throw in that is somewhat processed, just because you only need a very little bit of it. And I will warn you, a little bit of that curry goes a long ways as far as heat goes, depending on what kinds you use. But I've learned that the curry is hot, it is spicy, and it will light you up if you're not careful. So that would be number one. Other things that I make, oh Lord, I use my air fryer a lot. So seafood, air fried fish, chicken. I found that really the best rub that I usually make is super simple. I use brown sugar, a little bit of brown sugar, because the brown sugar gives the chicken a caramelized edge to it. So a little bit of brown sugar, some salt, some pepper, some garlic powder, some onion powder, and some paprika. So that is something, and then usually some sort of either Italian seasoning or oregano or some sort of green spice, right? Rosemary would work. But oregano is probably, if you're just going to pick one, a good one to go with. I buy Italian seasoning at Costco in the big jugs because I use so much of it. So that is another very good idea. And then with the chicken, I just did a video here on YouTube not very long ago on cauliflower cakes. Those were super good. That's just getting a cauliflower head, cutting it up, boiling it, mashing it up with an egg, adding some breadcrumbs to it, and some mozzarella or jack cheese, and then rolling it in some brown flour and baking it. And then you bake it for about 15 minutes at 350. You take it out of the oven, you put a little bit of olive oil on the top, and then bake it for another 25 minutes. Those turned out really good. You could serve that with chicken all by itself, just some air fried chicken and those cauliflower cakes. Perfect meal. Super easy, healthy. Anything that follows the Mediterranean diet. So lentil soups are very healthy and good for you. Any type of a dish that has beans as the main protein source would be good for you. Of course, remember when you're cooking these things, it's always best to use the raw ingredients, not the stuff in a can. I mean, when I make lentils, I normally buy them in the bags. I like red lentils and brown, either one. And then soak them or do whatever it says to do on there. Usually I boil them. And you can also make stir fries with those, right? So add carrots to that. Broccoli again, any sort of squash you could throw in there. And then make a sauce. Again, if you look up some of these recipes on Google, you'll see I try to pick ones that have turmeric and pepper in them, just like I said before, just because turmeric is super healthy for you. Remember, turmeric helps with pain. It helps with your mood. It's an antioxidant, so it will help clear your cells out as far as oxidative stress goes. So it will decrease the oxidation in your cells, which makes you feel younger, look younger, hopefully make you live longer, right? You can think of the oxidation of your cells kind of like the oxidation of a nail in the rain. If you throw just a regular nail, not a galvanized one, just a regular nail, it will rust, right? Or an apple. If you take an apple and you cut it in half and lay it on the counter, it'll turn brown. But if you soak that apple in lemon juice is an antioxidant, then it'll stay the same color, right? So, and that's why we use lemon juice and lime juice for a lot of different things to keep things fresh, is because of the citric acid in there. So you can think of turmeric as the same thing, except for your cells and not necessarily for the rusting of a nail. Now, my plan is to continue these live streams and see how many people we can get in here to start asking questions. Now, I know it's going to take some time, just like TikTok did. I have 100,000 followers on TikTok, so when I go live there, there's always people coming in asking questions, right? But the problem that I'm having over there, and we talked about this yesterday too, is they are censoring the questions. So if people ask me about a specific drug, a lot of times TikTok will block it, the whole question, so I can't see it, which makes people think that I'm not paying attention to them, when in reality, nobody can even see their questions. So part of the reason, or a big reason, I want to come over here and do this, and like I said, I'm going to be streaming everywhere, but at least I'll get some questions to answer from you guys, and you'll be able to ask me about anything, mindset, what if I'm super anxious? How do I get over it? What are some of the best coping mechanisms for anxiety? How do you make yourself happy if you're not happy? What are some of the things that you can do to improve your happiness and just the way you feel about yourself? What are the things that you want to not do to put yourself in a position to where you're not happy? And I can give you a couple examples of this. So number one would be, never compare yourself to somebody else. The only person you should ever compare yourself is the person you were yesterday, because there's a couple reasons for this. But the big one is, let's say that I want to be a star YouTuber, and I've been streaming for 6 months, and I've got 800 followers. And then I go look at somebody else who's got 6 million followers, and I think, man, I'm never going to be able to do this because that guy's so much better than I am. This is a waste of my time, and I just quit. Well, the thing is, first of all, you don't know how long that person's been doing this. Maybe they've been doing it 10 years. Maybe they've been doing it for 10 years, 8 hours a day or 10 hours a day, right? It's just like anything else. You have to practice to get better at it. So giving up is what most people do, and that's why there's so few people on TikTok that have 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, 500,000, a million followers, or subscribers they call them here, right? It's because they give up. It's too hard. But it takes time. It just takes time. And it's the same thing with everything else. If you want to be a dentist and you compare yourself to somebody who's been a dentist for 20 years that has so many people coming to see him that he only has to work 3 days a week, and he doesn't take patients anymore because he's always full, and you're brand new and you just got out of school, you're not going to have that kind of clientele because you haven't been doing it long enough. So that's one thing. Another thing I would tell people that are just unhappy in general is spend some time every day on yourself. Listen to music that you like. Listen to positive videos on TikTok or on YouTube, right? Go on here and find somebody who is a positive force. Trent Shelton's a great example of that. Watch a few Trent Shelton videos every day. If he can't make you feel good about yourself, then nobody can. He is a master at that. That's what he does. There's a lot of other people on here that do the same thing. Read books. You don't have to read a whole book every day. Read a few pages. I mean, if you read 10 minutes a day, in 6 days, you've read an hour, right? So think about it that way. Don't try to do too much too fast. Make sure that you pace yourself and just make small changes in your life. Change small habits to move yourself towards happiness. Another thing that I always tell people And this is super easy, but most people don't do it. Is get a piece of paper, draw a line down the middle. On the left side of the paper, write things that you love to do that make you happy. On the right side of the page, write things down that don't make you happy or make you unhappy. And then simply spend more time, more of your free time, doing the things on the left side of the page than you do on the right side of the page. And take some time to make this list. Don't just rush through it. Take some time to actually make the list. And again, do more of the things on the left side of the page than you do on the right side of the page. Super simple, right? How many people do it though? I'm doing my next video on heart disease, my next long video on heart disease, and you know, I'm gonna talk about statins again because statins are a hugely controversial subject right now. And the last time I did a video on statins, which by the way is my #1 video that I've ever done on here, I think it has 4,700 views or something, which is a lot for me because I've only been doing this for a few months. So people got on there and, you know, there were so many comments and a lot of people were just bashing me because they're like, oh, it's all about inflammation. It's all about what you eat. And that's true. A lot of it is about that. The problem is most people don't do. You can walk up to somebody and ask them, how can I eat healthy? And they will tell you exactly what you should do, but they don't do it, right? That's true with drinking alcohol, smoking cigarettes, doing illicit drugs, all of those types of things. People, for the most part, most of them know what they should be doing and should not be doing, but they don't do it. They don't do it. Why don't they do it? Because they're in the habit of not doing it. And they think that if they've had a hard day at work and they're tired and stressed out, that going through the Taco Bell drive-thru is going to actually give them more energy because it won't take them as long to cook, when in reality, if they had the good food in their body, they'd be less tired, they'd feel better, and they'd have a whole lot more energy. But trying to get people to change their habits is one of the hardest things to do. And it was hard for me too, guys. There was a time in my life where I was extremely unhealthy. I weighed about 280 pounds. I was drinking beer every night. I ate fast food every day. And I was basically a walking time bomb. And then one day I just decided I'm not going to do this anymore. I was depressed. I didn't like the way I looked. I didn't like the way I felt. Every day it's like, I hated my job. I basically didn't like my life at that point. And that's when I decided I needed to make a change and do things differently. So that's today's show. I am going to come up with another topic for tomorrow. I will be on tomorrow sometime probably around noon, give or take an hour on each side. Pacific time. I'm going to do these at lunch, but I don't get off tonight. It's 4 o'clock here now. I don't get off till 11:30, and then I have to be up at 5. So in the morning tomorrow, I don't really have time to do it because I won't be getting enough sleep. And sleep is one of the 5 pillars of health. So I want to make sure I get plenty of sleep. But I will be back, and I will come up with another list of subjects just like today. Maybe we'll talk about anxiety. Maybe we'll talk about a few coping mechanisms for anxiety. Maybe we'll talk about depression. What can you do to decrease your depression? We touched on that a little bit today, but maybe we'll talk about that more. I don't know. I've got a lot of topics up my sleeve that I'd love to talk about. Anti-inflammatory diet. What is inflammation doing to you? How do you decrease it? What are the foods and spices that are good for inflammation besides turmeric? Turmeric is probably the biggest one. But what are the other ones? That is a very good question, and I will cover that very soon. So I hope you guys all enjoy this. If you can think of anything that you want me to talk about, please leave subjects you want covered in the comments. I read every comment I get on YouTube. I read them all. So that will help me write tomorrow's show, as it were, right? It'll help me come up with subjects And again, no matter what, if there's people here and they want me to talk about certain things while they're on here live, then I will answer questions. My goal is to get to the point where I just get questions like on TikTok on here, and I can just answer them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people can ask me anything they want. And if I don't know the answer, I'll find out for you, and maybe I'll make videos on them. So I hope everybody has a great day, and thanks for watching this. Be happy and be healthy.